The Bluebell Ghosts. Written and read by TARDIS 9, based on the Railway series by the Reverend Wilbert Awdry, and Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends by Britt Allcroft and David Mitten. Stepney the Bluebell engine was enjoying his new life enormously. Every day, he would pull his trains up and down the line full of passengers. "He'd be sitting around on a siding any day," he said. "I don't blame you, old boy," laughed his driver. Stepney's new home was called the Bluebell Railway. His line was rather small. It went from Sheffield Park, which housed the engine shed, a museum and a shop, to Horsted Keynes, where the coaches and trucks were stored. There was talk of expanding the line to East Grinstead, and Stepney was most keen on this. "It would be nice to have a good long run to stretch my wheels again," he sighed. "Never mind, chap," said his driver. "I've been told you're to visit the North Western Railway in about a month's time. You'll get a run then, you'll see." "North Western Railway," Stepney pondered. "Is that on Sodor?" replied his driver. "You bet it is. And no doubt you'll meet some of the Fat Controller's engines there too." "Well, I'll be," exclaimed Stepney, and he puffed off with his mind deep in thought. Late one evening, Stepney had just taken his last passenger train of the day. He left his coaches at Horsted Keynes and headed back to Sheffield Park. Once there, he took on some water at the tower. As he did so, Primrose, who had been taking passenger trains alongside him that day, burst into the station. "Hurry!" she cried. "There's been an accident up the line!" Her crew jumped down and explained everything to the signalman. Soon, a gang of platelayers were seen walking up the line in the direction Primrose had just come in. "Whatever's the matter, Primrose?" asked Stepney. "Two people on the line," cried Primrose. "I tried to stop. Oh God, what have I done?" "Calm down," soothed Stepney. "I just killed two people," shrieked Primrose. Stepney was taken aback. "It was probably an accident, nothing more," he said slowly and soothingly. "Come on, have a good fill-up of coal, then you'll feel a better engine." And indeed he was right. Primrose had managed to calm down once she had been refilled with coal. However, she was still sad when she backed into the shed that night. "Hey, what's up?" demanded Captain Baxter. "Hope you're not going to cry your peeps out all night, 'cause I won't put up with it." "Shut up," said Adams. "The poor engine's obviously had a bad shock." Stepney explained it to everyone. They all gasped, except for Fenchurch, who kept very quiet at this. Eventually, the platelayers returned. "They were baffled. We went all along the lines," they explained, "but we couldn't find anything." The driver scratched his head. "But I'm sure we hit something," he said. "Primrose saw it too, didn't you, girl?" The platelayers looked at Primrose, who just stared back. She was just as confused as them now. Eventually, the platelayers put it down to a trick of the light. They acknowledged that it was wise for Primrose to warn them in such a case, but reprimanded her for her jumping to conclusions before they left for home. In the silence of the shed, Primrose said, "But I did see something." A murmur of agreement met this, and the engines vowed to remain on their guard. Every day, the engines patrolled the line with their trains. One night, Crompton was scheduled to take a maintenance train up the line. A special service was scheduled for tomorrow, and the controller wanted a thorough inspection of the line after the last passenger train had terminated at Sheffield Park. As he puffed slowly along the line, he gave a shout. "Stop, driver, stop!" he called. "There's two people on the line." The driver looked out and saw he was right. A newlywed couple seemed to be walking on the line in front of them. Acting quickly, he slammed on the brakes. Crompton shut his eyes. When he opened them, he found that the couple was nowhere to be seen. The driver did not waste time. He checked over the whole train, then, when he found nothing, he jumped back into the cab and opened the regulator hard. Crompton was so frightened now that he ran so fast he overshot the platform at Sheffield Park and nearly smashed through the buffers. He shunted the trucks back into the station, then his driver, stopping only to request for a relief man, hurriedly left for home without another word. Crompton was confused. He saw Stepney on the other platform and told him what had happened. Stepney's brow creased with thought. That's strange, he pondered. Too close to Primrose's accident for my comfort. But you haven't heard nothing yet, added Crompton. If I were to have hit someone, I would have felt it. But here's the thing. I didn't. Curiouser and curiouser, replied Stepney. He and Crompton backed into the shed, where they told the other engines everything. The question is, said Bluebell, what did Crompton and Primrose see? Asked Birchgrove. A cough came. Everyone turned to see it had come from Fenchurch. I think I know something about this mess, she confessed. Fenchurch was the oldest engine on the line, and was usually sought after by crews and engines alike for her knowledge and wisdom. I remember my old driver telling me about something he read in the papers back during the war. It was about a married couple. Oh, what a terrible thing to happen to them. And they only recently married too. I remember it was in 1943 from what driver told me. A young couple were walking home from the church. The ceremony had been held that day at St. Giles's Church in Horsted Keynes, and they had only just left the wedding reception. It was a long journey home. The soldier, a gunner named Ronald Knapp, had been granted leave to attend the wedding and the honeymoon with a member of the Women's Auxiliary Air Force, Corporal Winifred Standing. From the way they walked along the line, it was clear they were very much in love. Indeed, it was not surprisingly so. It was wartime, and thousands of families were being torn apart, with men dying in their thousands overseas. The Knapps knew this well, especially since Gunner Knapp had been given a posting overseas, which was briefly postponed to accommodate his leave. They had walked with Gunner Knapp's parents to the bus stop outside the waterworks at Holywell. After that, they made for home, taking a shortcut via the railway. There they were, strolling along the line in a torrential downpour of rain, arm in arm, their love in their looks and gazes at each other. A large mackintosh covered their heads. This and the rain practically cancelled out any noise around them. They were only 4 hours married when it happened. The last service, from Lewes to East Grinstead, was running tender first that evening. The engine felt something strike her buffer beam on her tender. The guard reported seeing something black on the line from his van as they carried on. They were at Horsted Keynes when they saw the blood-spattered raincoat on the tender's buffers. A ganger was quickly sent up the line. What a sight it must have been for that man to see those poor newlyweds lying dead on the line, their bodies cut to bits by the train. The mackintosh was found some further distance away. A resultant inspection following the coroner's report found no fault on the part of the engine and her crew. The inspectors made an exception for the poor weather and concluded that the couple had been trespassing on the railway, which was certainly the case. No blame could be attached to the engine or her crew, and they were commended for their speedy reactions when they discovered what had happened. I don't know what happened to the engine. It is likely that she is now long since scrapped these days. But I do know that the Reverend Stenton Eardley, the same man who married them, had the sad duty of burying them together in St. Giles's churchyard nearly a week later. It is possible that the couple have appeared again, trying to get home. But I doubt that that's possible now. since their house would have either been destroyed or someone else would have moved into it. The other engines were touched by this story. One by one they fell asleep, all except for Stepney. He stayed awake far longer than the others. His mind was forming a plan. The next day, Stepney asked if he could take the maintenance train at the end of the day, instead of his usual trains. "I don't see why not," the controller agreed. "It'll give Adams a chance to stretch his wheels again." And so it was arranged. While Adams took his passengers, Stepney sat in the shed and waited until nightfall. Then, while he was being steamed up, he told the crew his plan. They agreed to take part in it after some persuasion. Indeed, it was dark when Stepney left the yard, his trucks rattling behind him. He had a good clear run and his lamp shone brightly. He saw nothing on his way up the line. The journey home, however, was a different story altogether. Eventually, in the distance, Stepney could see two figures simply walking along the line. "Driver," he whispered. "Now." The driver shut off steam and applied the brakes, while the fireman watched on. The workmen could see the figures from their van. They scrambled out and ran in fright. They had heard about the ghosts on the line. But Stepney and his crew just stayed where they were. Stepney looked down at the couple. They looked back up at him, confusion in their eyes. "Mr. and Mrs. Knapp?" he asked. They nodded. "Are you trying to get home?" They nodded again, sadly. Stepney frowned. "Do you realize what happened to you? If you trespass on a railway, of course you'll be killed. You are asking for trouble." The couple looked sadder still. Stepney could see tears slowly rolling down their eyes. He sighed. His expression softened. "I know how it is," he said, "to have everything suddenly taken away from you, and to feel that there is nothing else left for you. I felt it myself when I left my old line. I was certain I was going to be scrapped. I thought that was the end of it for me. But then I was rescued by these people, the people who, I'm sorry to say, you have frightened. But I know that that was never your true intention. You only wanted to go home. You were living in a terrible time, though, and it was nearly 20 years ago. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid your home is either destroyed or someone else lives there now. I can't say which for certain. But what I will say is this. There comes a time in all our lives when we have to move on. I had to leave my line for this one. I found my heaven right here on the Bluebell Railway. I think it's time you found yours." He smiled. "Maybe now you'll be able to rest in peace." The couple smiled at him, then, as they slowly disappeared, their lips interlocked and they kissed each other one last time. Stepney and his crew felt humbled by their ordeal. They gently puffed onwards and returned to the yard without any further incident. To this day, the ghosts of the Knapps had never been seen again, but the engines are always respectfully silent whenever they pass the place where the accident happened. They know now that the ghosts appeared as both proof of what happens to those who breach railway safety laws, and that love truly lasts beyond the grave. Stepney and his crew didn't tell anyone about his actions that night. The workmen, however, did. They made out that the line was haunted. Realizing what this could mean for the railway, Stepney finally explained his actions and what had happened to the Knapps. Once he had done so, the controller saw to it that the full story was revealed to all who had claimed to have seen them. He then promised Stepney with a new coat of paint once they returned from Sodor. The other engines did not object to this. Thanks to his actions, they now have greater respect than ever before for Stepney, the Bluebell engine.